I'm going to add myself to stream. And thank you for tuning in. We've had 2 days of amazing speakers, people who have really come in and enjoy this what we're talking about, really into the conversations. And we're live. We're live on YouTube, we're live on LinkedIn, and we're live in Facebook. There are comment sections on each of those platforms, so go ahead, put your likes in, put your comments in. If you got any questions, please do. If you're on Facebook, there is a certain thing that allows people to show their name, and so Gia, my assistant, will be able to put that into the comments. So if you wish to, there is an opportunity to show what your name is, so that when you do make a comment or question, we can answer you directly, which is super awesome. Love it. And I'm so delighted over the next 5 days that we are this dedicated group of women from all over the globe who are here to help you leave behind exhaustion, frustration, and burnout to confidently take back your life with renewed energy and vitality. So my name is Vanessa Mollard, and I welcome you. And we're going to do this by having real and raw conversations on how to identify, communicate, heal, and prevent burnout. We have some amazing bonuses from our speakers who have come here to really share their wisdom. So plug into the website so you can see all these bonuses, and also how to contact these amazing speakers. So let's start. Let's start the summit for day 3 for the Energized Empowered Professional Women Summit. And I really want to warmly welcome Dr. Tami Berry. Hi, Tami.
Hi, Vanessa. Thanks for having me.
Oh, so awesome to have you today. And I'm so excited about this. I say this, but I really mean it. I'm so excited and also delighted with having you here, because I came across your work when I was looking up addiction and its role in burnout. In my experience, it's really hard for me to say it, but I'm saying it now, that I felt that I was getting addicted to alcohol as a way to self-soothe. And when I realized that, I started to then look into addiction and what it is, and I came across your work. And that's why I just went, wow, I listened to the podcast that you did, and I was so struck by your story and by your openness and how you're helping other people. So let me introduce Tami to everybody. So Dr. Tami Berry. Oh, no problem.
I appreciate it very much, because I think I appreciate your honesty, because I think that I think you've already heard, the audience has probably already heard the role shame plays in burnout. And it is the same with the addictive patterns that emerge because of burnout, which I'll get into a little bit about how that and why that happens.
Yep.
But it's the shame that ends up keeping us from asking for help. It's the shame that prevents us from recognizing we really need help. And it's shame that says, I'm the problem. Rather than saying there is a problem, it gets internalized. And shame says, I am the problem. And if we think we're the problem, it's really hard for us to find solutions, because I just want to say the truth of it is, we are not the problem. The problem is we have been systematically conditioned to patterns of self-sacrifice and self-sabotage. And we've been raised in those conditions. We live in a culture that propagates those conditions, whether we're talking social media influences, all media influences, cultural, corporate, educational, sometimes religious. So particularly among women, right? We have not been given permission to step into our power. We don't even know what that is in many instances. And so our logical mind, because of this conditioning, assumes we are the problem when we're not.
Right.
And
Yeah.
because I really spent so much time studying this and trying to understand it,
Yep.
mostly because I'm a pretty intelligent person. Um, you have to be to become a surgeon, pretty skilled and intellectually um, sound. And I could not figure out for the life of me why somebody so intelligent would be stuck in these habit patterns when it was like, I know better, like why why is it that I I feel so terrible that it was like this knee-jerk reaction to reach for the Adderall, this an energy stimulant. It's like
Oh, so
legal
Tammy, would love to bring everybody back to your story.
Oh,
Like let's
sorry.
get back. Yeah, no, it's okay. I know your story beautifully, and
I'm like, I'll
it
jump right
really,
in.
yeah, yeah. You're excited. I'm too excited. I'm excited too. And but I would like to bring everybody back to where you started, so that we
Mm,
can really appreciate where you're going. Because yeah, that really, that is so powerful. And then we'll go into it, into addiction as well, and all the things that are absolutely amazing in your work. So just kind of rolling back to with who you were when you started this journey, like your what were you studying, what happened to you, and then what were the addictions that came out, and what happened.
yeah. I um I was a licensed surgeon,
Mhm.
and I really my burnout was seated in my first year of residency training. It just took me a really long time to realize that's what was happening. And so that was in 2007.
Wow.
And there was no vernacular for burnout. I had no concept or understanding of what was really happening. Um, and I had totally internalized this as some sort of weakness, which to me was the worst thing that could possibly happen to a person. Like, here I am building a surgical career, and strength is the name of the game, strength, stamina, you know, and in a mostly male dominated field, obviously. And so I just thought it was work harder. It was so obvious to me that the only solution was I'm going to have to work twice as hard to prove that I belong here.
Mhm.
And that pattern continued for several years until I had hit a little bit of a wall about 3 years into my residency, and then I was the disruptive physician. Which is the one who says, like, no, I really won't work this many hours. And really, legally, it says 80-hour work weeks, and I'm working 110, and, really standing up for my rights. And that was when it got really hard on me. And standing
Mm.
up for physician, or for a lot of I was a patient advocate in so many ways, and had kind of emerged as a little bit of a system leader. And so I had been selected at this point to go into a master's program, a public health program, um, at Jefferson University in Philadelphia. And at the time, I didn't, I was going to be groomed for a leadership position in the healthcare system. And it was there that I started studying the PPACA, which is sort of shorthand known as Obamacare. And I started really understanding the direction medicine was headed, and that it was going to lead to a corporate takeover of the healthcare system in America, which is well underway right now. And I was lost. I had made medicine my God. And when it was fallible, I was in existential crisis.
Mm.
And I was in grieving over the loss of what I knew was going to be my profession. And I saw the writing on the wall a long time before other people did. I'm a little bit intuitive that way. I can see things before they happen. And then a couple more years went by and my burnout was bad. So at this point I start self-medicating. At this
Right.
point, I am in so much pain that I cannot handle this this existential crisis. And I feel like I have no choices at this point, which is so these are kind of like warning signs with burnout.
Mm-hmm.
You start feeling like you're the problem. You lose your self-efficacy. You feel like you can't make a difference.
Yep.
You feel disempowered, as if you don't have choice. You can't see them. And this is a byproduct of how stress affects the brain. We move all of our metabolic resources back into the primal regions of the brain, which I like to call the survivor brain. But literally, it's also known as the reptilian brain. That gives you a little indication of the IQ of this region of the brain. And we live from here, because what burnout is it's basically an overactivated sympathetic nervous system for prolonged periods of time.
Yep.
And so we can't move. There's a portion of the brain called the anterior cingulate gyrus. And this is the gear shifter of the brain. It's responsible for our ability to move out of this survivor brain and move into the prefrontal cortex, which is the executive function of the brain that makes good decisions, that has long-term planning, that's able to regulate emotions. And so because I had been living for so long from this very primal region of the brain, and my stress had accumulated to the point where reaching for alcohol, reaching for a drug, reaching for something was really an attempt, and now I can see this in retrospect, an intelligent attempt of my nervous system to attempt to self-regulate. Right?
Got it.
And so
Yeah.
and so when we can start talking about addiction and alcoholism and all of the other addictions, whether we're talking about scrolling too much on our phones, if we're talking about binging with Netflix, if we're talking about food, I know this is a big thing for a lot of women, the food addiction. It doesn't have to be drinking and drugging. It can be shopping. I know, so like this is a big one, right? And our silent rage, that can become another addiction, because it's like we would rather have this rising energy than deal with the exhaustion that we feel. And so it's a very interesting, when we start really understanding this phenomenon, we start, I think, through understanding is a wellspring of compassion. Because as we understand the biology, the science, the neuroscience, the physiology that's taking place, we can't help but respect this organism and the intelligence of this organism to try to self-preserve. Really.
Yep. And wow, that anger bit too. That's also, that just hit me. Like, I didn't even think of that. And I know I used to live in that space as well. So now I understand. Like, I'm like, oh, it's always been something happen, I would, whoa, be that powerful person always in anger or some form of conflict mode, because I felt that now I'm in control. Now I can feel better. Now, and it was something that was really comfortable for me. And I will come after, when I come down from it, I'll be like, this, I feel crap again.
Totally.
And I'm going, no, this is not the way I want to do it. And I will come home from work and I'll go, I need a glass of wine, because so there's the uppers and the downers, and so that was my life as well. So that's what happened to you as well. Like, so you ended up seeking different things to soothe that part, or to come into to oh, my brain just went poof.
Basically as a form to regulate and moderate, right, mood. And then it became really the nervous system self-regulating itself. Like, we just need to put some alcohol in her. Like, we need to calm her down. Like, we just, something needs to give here, because we can't keep going like this. Right?
Got it. Yep.
And stress is highly addictive. Highly addictive. And
it
so the chemicals of it and what it does to the body, alters the biochemistry of the body in
Mm-hmm.
such a way that it even alters our DNA. Over
Mm-hmm.
time, we start producing stress-related hormones, proteins, and those all come from our genes, right? And as we switch out of that, as we work with the nervous system, which is work I'm very passionate about, because this is the work we need to do to not just do this short-term work, which is, my gosh, if my nervous system is seeking to self-regulate, why don't I just take 3 minutes and regulate myself? Do a
Yep.
little breathing practice, activate the vagus nerve, do some parasympathetic work, right? I'm sure I'm sure this audience has heard so many tools already, and they're going to hear so many more. I particularly love what's known as heart brain coherence training,
Mm.
where we breathe from the heart. It helps regulate the nervous system and regulate the brain, our ability to think, right? Optimizes cognitive function and
Oh,
intuition
wow.
and creativity and all of these other things, and regulates emotions. So we want to look at how we can help regulate our own nervous systems. And there's so many ways for us to do that, because if we're not going to do that work, then our nervous system ends up owning us.
Right.
And
Yeah.
what's really the work of Gabor Mate has radically shifted my understanding of this. That I think so many people that end up with what I am now understanding as nervous system dysfunction, which is what burnout is. Burnout is akin to trauma,
Mm.
non-contact brain injury, and nervous system dysregulation. When we start to understand it this way, I got really curious about, like, where does this originate? Is this because I was working too much? And it wasn't until I realized there are so many factors here. This is like our belief systems, that how we think about ourselves ends up showing up in our nervous systems. How
Yep.
our nervous systems process this world is filtered through the unconscious mind, right?
Mm.
And and it also has a thread, a link to how we were parented. The nervous systems in our homes of origin, right? Whether it was your biological parents or somebody else, that nervous system that you were trying to regulate off of, if it wasn't available, if it was stressed, if it was anxious, if it was absent, your nervous system did not develop properly. And so it's always in a state of unsafety, right?
Yep.
It's never fully regulated. So, and this, I believe, is a huge predictive factor for burnout, particularly as it relates to addiction and alcoholism and any
Wow.
other addiction that ends up
Yep.
evolving from it.
Mm-hmm.
That our nervous system has never been securely developed, safely developed. And I love that we get to do this work. Like, I
Yep.
absolutely love that we know how to train the nervous system and that we get to self-parent.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
And we have
it's
that
scary.
opportunity to, and that's and the awareness of needing to do that is a blessing in itself, I think. And it and just coming to that word of blessing, your beautiful title, burn, where you talk about burnout and it being a blessing. How was burnout a blessing to you, and how did you come to that realization after you did you had all the everything that you did to calm your nervous system down with the drugs, with the alcohol? How was that a blessing for you at one stage, and then you just went, wow?
Yeah. Well, I think that without burnout and without ultimately the alcoholism and the addiction accelerated burnout,
Right.
right? So it was like I
Mm-hmm.
was on the fast track now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what could have maybe perseverated for another several years, it had already been perseverating for 6. What could have just kind of kept going, you know, was really like, now I was on the fast track. Now it was like 8 months later, and I was totally exhausted. Like, I had hit a wall. I didn't get out of bed for like 3 months. My body shut down. I
Wow.
literally was depleted of internal resources. And it was then that I realized, and actually prior to that, before I had hit a wall, 2 months before that, the very end of 2012, I actually had my heart stop twice
Oh,
and felt myself go into VFib and then VTAC, and did cardiac resuscitation on myself and prayed that, man, if this doesn't work, I hope whoever finds me knows, like, to bring a defibrillator. Like, they need to shock me. Like, that's the only way that's the only way I'm coming back. And that made me curious, but wasn't enough to stop the insanity. Right? Like, I did not self-identify as suicidal, but my behavior was.
mm,
And
mm,
this is really where I got curious. What is happening to this brain that
yeah.
it is making choices that are aligned with somebody who would be considered by an outside source? You add all this up, anybody looking from the outside in is saying that person is suicidal. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going, but I'm not. But I'm not trying to kill myself. I'm just miserable. And this was the blessing. The blessing was I finally was brought to my knees, and I had to face this. I had to look at this. And it wasn't until I was willing to look at it that I could see it clearly for what it really was. And it was this incredible blessing that my thoughts, my emotions, my energy were being consumed in belief systems and unconscious programming that were self-limiting, self-defeating, self-sabotaging at their core. And then where I was brought to was this ability to do this work, to embrace self-compassion, to understand self-kindness, to have radical self-respect, to decide that in this moment forward, like, I've got my own back. From this
Mm-hmm.
moment forward, I am going to be my own best friend, and I am going to figure this out. I am not abandoning myself anymore, because that's what I was doing. Every time I was numbing, every time I was checking out, I was actually abandoning myself. And that was a very familiar pattern from my childhood. Abandonment, there was a theme here, right? Like, I didn't have a nervous system to regulate from at a very young age. And I had then learned to abandon myself.
Yep.
And it inspired this incredible journey to understand the nervous system, to understand the brain, to understand this physiology, to have a whole new understanding of what it is to be self-directed and self-regulated. And without this knowledge, I would not have been able to realize that I manifested my burnout. And that because of that, I get to manifest something so much more amazing.
Yep. Yep. And I love that realization, and that switch in thinking, and that choice, that that essential choice. We can go around, and I will say this quite clearly. We can go, and from my point of view and from my experience, that I thought, yeah, no, it's all right. I can, drinking alcohol with dinner is normal, and it's great, and it's I keep getting all these excuses, but then in deep down inside of me, it says, no, it's not good for you. It's not good for you to use it as that purpose. But I kept ignoring it, and I said, no, I'll stop tomorrow. I'll stop tomorrow. I'll stop tomorrow. And then one day I just went, bang, I made that choice. Why? Because I did not want to self-abandon myself anymore. I did not want to let myself down anymore. And so I said, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I am stopping for to get out of this need for alcohol in this way. And it's when that choice happened, and it's the same with the choice of how do I connect back to myself. I've lost touch with everything. it was that one point where I made that choice, but I needed to go down, down to the depths of despair, of exhaustion, such that you are left with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then in that nothingness, you suddenly hear your voice, your inner child, your heart saying, "Oi, I'm here."
Mm-hmm.
And then you go, and then you make that decision. So for all of us listening here, if you're continuously in that cycle, which we'll talk again, we will continue talking with Tami, it's that choice. That's what makes the difference. And yeah.
And sometimes we have to be brought to our knees to make that choice.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
And sometimes the surrender is the blessing. You know, that moment where you go, okay, I can't go on like that.
Mm-hmm.
We think that's a moment of weakness, but truly, it's the moment of liberation.
Mm-hmm.
They're very different. They're very different things, you know, very different. And I love what you said about, you know, the choice. I also want to mention that sometimes it's like I had just been recently coaching somebody who was cutting substances from their life. And we had been doing nervous system work for about 4 weeks, and she felt totally ready to do it. I actually didn't know that this was something that she wanted to work on. It hadn't been on her initial intake. And she shared it later on in our work together. And it was fascinating to me how as soon as her nervous system was as soon as she had strengthened and balanced her nervous system, the desire was gone.
Yeah.
Right. So the choice had been, I really like the idea of being willing to let go of this. I like the idea of not needing this, and how
Mm-hmm.
that little seed could lead to developing a skill set that meant
Yes.
she didn't even need it anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that sometimes we just need the seed of curiosity. What would my
Yes.
life be like if I didn't need this? And is that appealing to me? You know, because I think when I had first put it all down, the thought of like never picking it up again for the rest of my life was a little bit like, I knew I had that intention in my heart, but my logical mind could not like quite get on board with that. Particularly, I think in the, you know, in um, in Western culture, it is so culturally normal, right? Like
Yes.
this is what you do. You get together to have a drink. You have dinner and a drink. You go to a show and you have a drink, and you like everything's around a drink. And I was like, how will I survive? How will I possibly survive? And I had gotten to this place where it was like, you know what? I'm just going to focus on one thing, which is today. I just don't need a drink today. And whenever I felt the urge, I was like, yeah, but I was able to look back at all of the drinks and all of the drugs I had already had. And I was able to say, but I had enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so liberating because now I'm back in choice.
Yes.
Because I think that if we are trying to, what they say, white knuckle it, right? We're trying to willpower our way through it. Willpower will weaken. But when it's really a choice that's coming from your heart, it's coming from your unconscious and your conscious mind, you're aligned in that choice and you go, is it true that I've had enough? And you can go, yeah, I have. I've had
Yeah.
enough. It doesn't feel like deprivation.
Yes.
And I would say for me, it was also glamorizing sobriety because we see them glamorizing the drink, right? They're always like on some beach somewhere and with
Yeah.
amazing bodies doing amazing things, whatever. And I had decided I was going to glamorize sobriety.
Okay. Wow.
I was going to glamorize my healthiest life, my happiest life, my most
Great.
joyful life, my most successful life. And as soon as I started future casting that, it was like, ooh, I'm excited about that possibility. I'm excited about to see if that comes true. And it was way more exhilarating and exciting than any of the other
Yeah.
superficial messaging that was being
Well,
relayed.
it's you though. That's the thing, right? You've come out and you're really now expressing you, and
Mm.
you are allowing that expression to come true, rather than, oh, I'm going to show a particular picture. I'm actually saying, I'm actually showing me. and because your nervous system now, you're working on it daily, and it's not something that you go, okay, I worked on it, it's great, I made my choice, no more, I'm done. No. It's like food. You got to eat and water. You got to have food and water every day, and you got to be able to make this part of your life, and you, and it becomes again that choice. And then, because you don't need any external validations or anything like that, suddenly you just go, I don't need this. Do I really need this today? Why do I need it? Is it because I want to self-soothe, or because I want to come down from some high that I've had because I'm so addicted to it? Or um am I just enjoying this because it goes nicely with this food? I don't know. These are all, I don't need it. um, and so you can see how that switches the nervous system and those choices. And I really get that. I've had enough. There's a couple of times this week where organizing the summit, going, oh, I really need a drink. But then I went, no. Why would I? I'll have some kombucha or something, and that will nourish me. And I'll be having a drink as well, but it's a drink. It's a nourishing drink, and I love it. And and I'm going, oh, I actually don't need it. So I get it so totally, with what you.
I love what you're saying here, Vanessa, because what comes to mind is it's like we move from self-destruction to self-construction,
Yep.
right? I stop self-sabotaging and I start self-rehabilitating. And it's like we just need to be nourished. We need to be supported. And this is so unfamiliar to so many of us,
Yes.
particularly high achievers, right? We we need to be supported. We need to be nourished. And until we can, I love what you also said about this external validation, because I was addicted to external validation and immediate gratification, which is
Yes.
also why I became a surgeon. And I did not recognize the liability in that dynamic, the
Mm.
codependency that emerges from that dynamic. We can't be truly empowered until we can validate ourselves, right? So I am big on creating this internal relationship with oneself where one is always ready to meet one's needs, where we're cultivating a little self-awareness where we can go, I mean, I still have a reminder in my phone that goes off every day. What are your needs? Meet them. A
Right.
reminder to myself to ask myself every day, what do you need today? Meet it, right? It's not my husband's job. It's not my children's job. It's not my work's job, right? Nothing outside of me can give me my worth, my value, my love, my joy. Like everything that we think that we need, we want to learn how to resource from within ourselves. It's truly the most empowering place we can live.
Wow. And so, like, so do you think that in that spot of space, and with experiencing burnout, is that the pathway to discovering and reclaiming, one's creative power in their life? Like, is that
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Because as soon as you can recognize your destructive power in your life,
Hmm.
you come face to face with the truth, which is that you are the creative power of your life. That if I could make this big of a mess, imagine what else I can make. Right. And that
Yeah.
realization is so exciting and so thrilling. And that's also why I keep doubling down on the nervous system work, because as I do more and more research and I understand this more and more, energy is the creative currency of the universe. And
Hmm.
if we're wasting it away, the stress response is a sieve when it comes to energy wasting.
Yep.
We don't get to direct that energy towards the lives and the legacy and truly the impact we want to leave on this world. We don't have the relationships we want to have. We don't have the health. We don't have the impact. We don't have the leadership. We don't get to show up with the best of us. And that's what ultimately that's the soul shame, right? So I think burnout is this juxtaposition of egoic shame, which is I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I need to prove myself. That's what drives us into achievement. That's when we finally achieve what we think we've been striving for, and we burn out because it doesn't fill the void that we thought it was going to fill. We actually feel worse.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting process of addiction that whenever you reach for something and it soothes you, but then you end up feeling worse, it's actually fueling a wound and
Yep.
and not your true heartfelt desire,
Yep.
right? So we achieve these things, so we're driven by this ego shame, and then we start engaging in behaviors because we're so broken. We start engaging in behaviors that are so beneath us. It changes your personality. I want to make that very clear. I don't think I said that yet. Burnout changes your personality. It changes the way your
Mm.
brain works. It changes how you feel emotions. It changes how you process incoming stimuli. It alters your mood, your personality, your persona, and your temperament, right? It makes us more angry, more territorial, more competitive, more isolated, right? This is a byproduct of how the brain works when it's stressed. And we start engaging in behaviors that create soul shame, right? We're not being kind to the people we love. We're not being good to ourselves. We're destroying our bodies. We're giving away our resources. We're ruining our financial health. We're ruining our careers. Everything is crumbling, and now our soul is aching. And this is, I think, the blessing of burnout is we're awakening to the truth that our intellectual mind, as brilliant as it is, cannot heal us. We
Yes.
need something more substantial, sustainable. We need our souls back.
Yep.
And we can
Wow.
get that through the heart, right? We can go directly to the heart and we can start healing and liberating and transforming our lives.
Wow. That's absolutely gorgeous, and you're just bringing up everything that we're talking so far in the summit, and also um, in the next couple of talks where we're talking about energy and how to harness that in the most beautiful way, and coming from the heart, and shame, and it's just coming together, Tammy. It's just absolutely beautiful. I have a
Well, I've been
beautiful
doing this work a long time.
I know it's to see that, to see that shift. I think sometimes when I'm in with my clients, and suddenly they come to this aha moment, and suddenly the eyes go from this to,
Mm.
oh, I got it. And it could be different things. It doesn't matter what it is, but and then that switch goes, and then they make that choice, and that's when it's really important. I have a beautiful question here for you, and it's from Kathy. And so, did you do this entirely by rebalancing your nervous system? So what you've been through, and through your healing journey, or did you get outside help as well? So how did
Oh,
you
I
go?
got all kinds of help.
Hmm.
I got all kinds of help. Get yourself all the help you need is what I'm gonna really say here. I had mentors. I went on sabbaticals. I went deep into meditation. I was going away for 7 days at a stretch every 6 months for years. I was doing it. And I began to understand what all of that was doing. I was in therapy, I was in all kinds of things. But what ultimately was the switch for me was when I understood meditation is actually training the nervous system.
Hmm.
It's a nervous system training that allows us to become also self-aware. And we
Yep.
can cultivate self-awareness without having to go deep into meditation for 7 days at a time, every 6 months, for years. Right? Because I wanted to find a way to streamline this process for people. Like, people don't want to go away. People want to be able to live their lives and still benefit from the nervous system balance, the self awareness, the self regulation, the emotional processing. So, really, the nervous system balance is foundation, I believe, for all of the work that gets done in terms of healing and transforming, right? Because I realized that my stress response needed to be disrupted. That was its own addiction, right?
Yep.
Yes, I was addicted to substances, but I was addicted to stress first. And
Yes.
that was fueling all of the other addictions.
Yep.
And I kept cycling through other addictions. I kept getting healthier and healthier addictions, which I guess
Yes.
was good. Like a little less self-destructive. But it wasn't until I started doing the nervous system regulation that this compulsion for addictive behavior just settled, just calmed down, because I was calming the nervous system. The nervous system was trying in its own intelligent way to regulate. And I finally said, let me help you. Right.
Wow.
So
Yep.
it's that. And then we are able to become more self-directed.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We're able to reflect. I have a podcast, Dr. Tami Talks. To anybody that's interested, you could, I've been doing it about a year now. And I keep hearing again and again from people. And I love to hear from you. If you listen, message me. I love hearing how you're applying it, what it's doing for you. This podcast is changing people's lives.
It is. Yep.
And it's truly medicine for the mind, body, soul. It will help you strengthen your relationships. It will help you be the healthiest you. It will help you live with your best self. And it will help you find compassion and forgiveness and acceptance and love and understanding, because that's where it all begins.
Yep. Wonderful. And thank you for answering that question, Tami. And that's what I put below is all of Tami's, how to contact her, all her socials and everything there. The podcast is accessible through her website, so you can go through I found it, so it's got to be easy. And I did forward that to a couple of my friends, some of the episodes, so they could actually listen to, because I thought, wow, someone needs to listen to this. And I'm also really interested also in, do you have any upcoming workshops, and also what the bonus that you have given us, which has been so absolutely amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. The bonus is an ebook that's the 5 myth-busting truths about burnout. And it's really for you if you're in the earlier stages of burnout and you think you're the problem, you have to read this book, because
Okay.
it will tell you all of the ways that you've been taught that you're the problem when you're not. Right?
Okay.
Because it's really important for us to know that we aren't the problem, and it's not some weakness. And it's like I can't say enough about how important that fundamental first step is.
Yes.
And I have a really special 5-day training that's coming out the last week of March. It's called Made for More. So
Yes.
follow me on Instagram or LinkedIn. I'll share it both places. But yeah, it's going to be an incredible 5-day training where we look at specifically how we can go from burnout to all out in our lives.
Okay.
And
wonderful.
so it's going to be hosted on a private podcast.
Yes.
Made More, and it actually leads up to the week when I'll be opening the enrollment for my next signature program, which is the SMART program.
Right.
Which is where we really start learning inner intelligence, these skills of nervous system training. It's very specific nervous system training. It comes with audio recordings and video trainings so that we learn how to build self-compassion. We learn how to build nervous system balance. We learn how to self-regulate. We learn how to self-direct. And it is a game changer, what happens.
Yeah. Okay.
Amazing
Absolutely.
Program.
That sounds absolutely amazing. And this is why I have asked Tami, I've asked all these amazing women. I keep saying amazing, and I that's the only word, like, or phenomenal. It just blows my mind, because all these beautiful women have develop these things from their own heart, from their own experiences. So they didn't just pluck this out of the air, oh, I'm going to make some money out of this, off I go. No, it doesn't. It comes from a really deep place of pain, of a journey, and then going, whoa, this works. I'm going to bring this to the world in my way. And so the people who resonate with me and my story will come to me because they want to, because they are drawn to me. And this is really important in this whole thing of burnout, where we have so many different women from all different walks of life, all having different experiences. And from each of them, you can glean a little bit of information and encouragement to know that you are loved and you are not alone. And we understand you. We understand you from the depths of our heart. We empathize, and we're here. We give space for you. So to wrap up, Tami, I've been asking almost all my speakers, when I can remember, this little question. If you saw now your 8-year-old self just in the corner there, and she's having a moment, could be a moment of joy, could be a moment of sadness, could be a moment of a reflection, what would you whisper in her ear right now?
I love you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting with that, thank you so much, Tami, for being with us today. I really appreciate you, appreciate your work, and appreciate your journey. Thanks for being such a beautiful friend in this journey of this summit. And if, my dear viewers, if this video really resonates with you and you know someone who needs to listen to this, please share it with them. It is a resource for you to listen again and to remind yourself of who you are and why certain things are happening to your life. And it's okay. So that's why it's here. Please share it and take care of yourselves. Much love from me, Vanessa Mollard, and Tami Berry today. Thank you.
Thank you.